And welcome back to Real News Michiana's Real News Roundup. I'm your host, Ben, and this majestic-looking Viking pirate-looking dude to the right of your screen is none other than the editor and founder of Real News Michiana, Clifton Fritch. How's it going, man?
Hey, Ben, I'm doing great. How you been?
Hey, I'm doing, man. It's just another week.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of stuff going on last week. We took the week off, and we're going to pick things back up again today.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize for skipping a week on these episodes, but life happens, and today we have tons of stuff. It is the Vernado Malone show, Ben.
Yes, it is. And before we get started into this, okay, please like and subscribe, share this video, comment below. Okay, then go down to realnewsmichiana.com below this screen. Okay, go to that website and become a subscriber. Because when you become a subscriber, that's what helps keep the local news coming straight to you. This is stuff that actually affects you. That's stuff you're going to see on MSNBC or all these other traditional legacy outlets that suck.
Yeah, well, and Ben, I want to throw out there, if you don't know my credentials, I worked in the legacy media for years and years and years. I was at the top of the game. I used to cover the FBI, ATF, Department of Homeland Security, SOCOM, CENTCOM, Tampa PD, Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, third largest law enforcement agency in the country. There are zero people with my journalistic credentials in this area, honestly, in the entire state of Indiana. I'm telling you what you need to hear. I know how the sausage is made in those legacy media outlets. Everything you're being told is a lie. I am the only one who is giving you real, actual news. That's why it's real news.
That's why local officials are responding to your real news.
Yeah.
It's pretty hilarious to watch from my end.
Yeah, and on top of that, you know what? We need to get paid. We need to get paid. If you want this type of content, if you want this information coming to you, subscribe, support. That's the only way it's going to continue.
All right, getting into things. It's the Vernado Malone show today.
Cheers.
New answers tonight from a local activist about photos of corpses he has in his possession.
Vernado Malone with Justice for Michiana says the group has permission to take pictures of some fully naked bodies. WSBT 22's Caroline Torrey is at the live desk right now, and Caroline, Malone says that the photos serve as valuable evidence.
When the autopsy come back, it says match.
Malone says there were questions about the police shooting of Eric Logan in summer 2019, so they started taking pictures of victims.
We thought that it was beneficial because we didn't know what happened. We had, with Eric Logan, all type of claims why O'Neal shot him.
Malone says families he's worked with have appreciated the documentation.
When the body come from autopsy, before it's embalmed, we take photos if we need to. Not everybody that passed get photos. Funeral home director would be in the room with me or any of my staff.
But the executive director of the Indiana Funeral Directors Association says laws limit who can be in certain areas.
You need a stiff drink after that.
Yes, sir. NAACP backtracks on relationship with felon to attack woman seeking protection order against him. Cliff, to go into that a little bit, what's going on with this dude? You've been doing a lot of stories on this guy.
Okay.
I know him as the morgue pervert, the morgue voyeur, if you will. This guy is out there, man. I don't know how he got access to, I know he's a city official. He's paid by tax dollars, right?
Getting paid. He's okay. So that's the main thing everybody needs to know here, right? This guy is a convicted felon, federal felon, just out of prison for a few years, right? For fraud. Multiple times he's been convicted of federal fraud. He's only been out of prison for a few years, and the city started paying this guy with your money to help fight violent crime, to help stop violent crime, right? I am going to go way back in the time machine here, Ben, okay? I'm going all the way back to December of last year when I first started investigating this guy. So we're talking December of 2020, almost a year and a half ago. I had received some tips about this man taking and sharing nude photos of dead people at a local funeral home called Alfred's Mortuary, okay? This guy had started a nonprofit that was dedicated to, quote unquote, dedicated to helping families of homicide victims pay for funeral arrangements. he would show up on every single crime scene. He would show up on every single homicide. He would show up to suicides, whatever. He didn't even care if it was a homicide or not. But that was his whole shtick. So he'd show up to all these scenes. He ended up getting involved with the city of South Bend, and the city of South Bend ended up funding through grants, funding his whole scheme that he was doing.
Did he actually pay for any funerals? Did he help anybody that we know of?
Oh, no. So he was pushing families. He would tell these families, hey, listen, I have a good deal on caskets. I have a really good deal on funeral arrangements, all of this stuff. Go to my partner, which is completely illegal, right? Go to my partner, Alfred's Mortuary, and we will, help you out here. Sign all these forms for me, right? One of them was a consent to take pictures of these dead bodies. By the way, that consent form is ridden with grammatical errors. It does not hold legal water. Families didn't even know these people are grieving. Like at the time, they're grieving of the homicide of their family member. And so they would sign off on this paperwork. This guy is known for identity theft, right? The families would give social security numbers of their kids. They would give social security numbers of on all these documents, just completely insane. So he would get all this information, and then he would go in and he would take full body nude photos of these victims, right? I'm talking, and then he would go around and he would show these pictures and talk about the breasts of these women, talk about the penises of these men, right? He would go and just laugh and joke and brag about all of this stuff. Now, what he was mainly doing was he would use these pictures and claim that he was a member of law enforcement, or that he worked for a funeral home, or that he was a private investigator, right, doing homicide investigations. And so he would use these essentially as his business card, as his resume, when he would go to other crime scenes. And so he would go up to these families and he'd go, see, look, I'm legit. These are all the homicides I've investigated. These are all
by showing them pictures of dead bodies.
Yep, full body, like with Y cuts and everything. Okay.
Wow.
I have talked to probably 50 different people who have seen these photos, right? We're talking hundreds and hundreds of pictures of these people. The person who tipped me off to all of this happening, going back to my story today, or this story that we're talking about, is the woman who is seeking a protection order against him. Ever since then, he has been attacking her relentlessly. He's been using his nonprofit to attack her. He's been doing it personally. He's been doing it in person, on social media, via phone, okay? Harassing, stalking, making up lies about her. He has called her a prostitute. He has called her a philanderer. He has called her a criminal. He has said all of these things about her. Now, this woman and her husband, we're getting into the weeds here, but this woman and her husband are both running for public office. So they went up to the voter registration office to file proper paperwork and to do the proper things to run for public office. His vice president of his organization, who was also involved in this whole naked picture scheme, works in the voter registration office.
Oh, wow.
Okay. They took video of this woman in the voter registration office and claimed that she was getting private voter information.
Oh,
Okay.
of course.
That she was accessing computers and getting all this private information and all of that. The woman who is his VP, or was his VP of his nonprofit, she is also the vice president of the NAACP. The NAACP was going to have a press conference until I contacted the president of the NAACP. I explained to the NAACP what was going on. The NAACP president, Trina Robinson, then said, we didn't know about all of this information. And so we've decided to back off of what we were going to do with this press conference, right? I think just trying to save face, because honestly, if they would have had a press conference and all the media would have shown up, like they would have parroted what she had to say, right? But then they would have to backtrack later on everything. And this woman who is seeking a protection order against him had court the very next day with a protection order. So he was trying to set up this media narrative prior to his court date, where he was having this where he was having this protection order hearing against her. 2 days later, I write a story. Judge approves protection order against the activist for stalking and harassing this woman, right? So 6 hours of testimony in protection order hearing. 6 hours.
Gotcha.
He subpoenaed freaking everybody. Also, submitted pictures that he had taken of these dead bodies in court. Okay.
That's a brilliant move. And who was representing him again? Real quick?
It was him. He represents himself. He does all of this stuff, right? The judge reams him. The judge reams him. Why are you submitting these pictures of these dead people in this? These are now a part of the record, permanent record. Tried to get the judge to bring it up on the big screen of a gentleman who had been shot in the head, okay, had a bullet hole in the head, and was showing his full body, including his penis, on the big screen in a courtroom.
Did they show it in the courtroom?
No, the judge refused.
Very good.
The judge refused and was like, you are insane. There is no way I'm doing this. Halfway through the hearing, the judge goes, listen, all this woman has to prove that you are stalking and harassing her are two things. We're halfway through, and you have proven that you have done 4. Right now, the Attorney General is investigating, right? The Attorney General has opened up a case against him and the funeral home, okay? I can tell you that there are local and state and other investigations happening into this guy right now. He will end up back in prison. I guarantee he's going to end up back in prison.
The plot thickens even more.
All this week. Well,
the plot thickens because now he's suing you.
Now he's suing me. So the same day that the judge comes down on him saying, hey, like, and approves this protection order against him, he files, once again, pro se, he's representing himself. He files a defamation lawsuit against me for writing my stories. Then, the greatest part about this is the best defense against defamation is the truth.
Yep.
That's it. It's
going to humiliate himself with this one.
So he filed defamation for me, calling him a clown, which is not a defamatory comment anyway.
No.
But for calling him a clown.
Well, the nicest thing you could call this bag of crap.
Yeah. Calling him an alleged sexual predator in my stories, right? Which, mind you, taking and sharing full body nude photos of dead people is a sexual predatory behavior. Okay. On top of that, I have already written a story about him. There was another investigative story I did about him soliciting sex from a mother in need who he had promised to help with his nonprofit. Okay. That's also sexual predatory behavior. Further, he claimed that I said that he was having sex with a minor. Mind you, I was questioning him about allegations from a minor, from a child, about him soliciting sex from a minor. I have this tip was given to me from a bus driver. I have the bus driver on the bus. That bus driver provided me the video of this conversation with this child and the audio of this conversation with this child, right? I have all of this, all of it. And I cannot wait to subpoena every single piece of electronic device evidence from him. I'm not going to request dismissal. I am going to go through discovery and I'm going to dig into every single little piece of this criminal, this scam artist's life. If he had an attorney, his attorney would have said, absolutely not. 1, you're not going to win. 2, you're going to open yourself up to discovery and they are going to be able to get a ton of information on you that you don't want.
That is awesome. So now I guess we got more material for more stories.
I am stoked. That is why, dude, I get threatened with defamation suits all the time. They never come. They never come.
Bring it, Bernardo. Bring it.
Bring it. Bring it. They never come because attorneys tell these people, do not do this. Discovery is going to bite you. Such a smart man.
Dumbfounded by this guy. Okay, so you got the funeral home perv. Like you hear a pervert, you hear disgusting people, right? But not that disgusting. Like the funeral home voyeur perv. Like who is this guy? Wow.
Oh, by the way, he's in Indianapolis doing this stuff now too.
Oh, so he's moved his operation south.
Oh, he moved his operation to Indianapolis. There are stories. Google it. Indianapolis, Renato Malone. Family homicide. This is what he's doing. I've already passed all of this information along to friends of mine who are investigative reporters in Indianapolis. They're already digging into it. It is bad. By the way, two families of these people who had two families of the deceased who had naked pictures taken of them are suing him right now. Currently, the Attorney General's office is investigating. This woman is investigating him. So the woman who just got the protection order is suing him for defamation of character, right, and a defamation lawsuit as well, which she's going to win. She's just not going to get any money from the guy. I mean, the guy, even so, in his lawsuit against me, he filed he wanted a fee waiver, court fee waiver. So he filed that, showing that his income is only $820 per month, and he only has $5.49 currently in the bank. I mean, this guy is a loser. He's a con artist. He's a scam, and he's a scammer and broke. And he was having meetings with Mayor Pete. Dude, this dude was in the New York Times. He was featured in the freaking New York Times.
Really?
They did zero background check on this guy. He was featured in the New York Times. He was making himself the front and center of everything. Everything. He's just a fraud. He's a complete fraud.
A fraud and a piece of human trash.
Oh, he is the biggest piece of human trash you've ever met. This guy needs to be put in prison forever. Forever. The worst piece of human trash there is. And by the way, I have stared down terrorists in Iraq. I will tell you, this guy is worse than them.
Anyways, let's move on to the next story. One day, a child got jumped in the morning, gun threatened the PM at South Bend Middle School.
This is at Dickinson Intermediate.
The same school. This is the same school. The same day.
School,
one kid gets jumped by like 4 or 5 people.
Yep.
Then there's a gun threat right after that. The same school.
In the same school. And one day, this was last week on March 10th, right? On March 10th, and one day, so a week and a half ago, in the morning, there was a child who was jumped by 4 or 5 kids. Okay. Now, police are not giving me a ton of information on this. The South Bend South Bend Community School Corporation did not give me much information either. However, I have multiple sources within the district who are familiar with this. They tell me that there were multiple teachers, right? They're unlicensed teachers. They're working on provisional licenses. They're not really educators. They're pretending to be educators, and they're being paid by us taxpayers to be educators. They just sat by with their phones taking video of this whole thing and didn't intervene at all. 4 or 5 kids pummeling another child. Then just a few hours later, at 2:30 p.m., there was a gun threat at the same place, right? So the school district said, "Hey, listen, we're requesting more police presence for the next few days because we got this gun." I mean, I realize, like, you know, a few days is good, but I mean, you just had a kid just beaten brutally. Maybe there should be more of a police presence all of the time. If this is happening in one day, there's a problem.
That's disgusting. That, I mean, and is anybody held accountable for this? Obviously, you got a principal, you got an assistant principal, you have an whole chain of command there, if you will, and no one's being asked any questions. Nobody's being held accountable. There's no statement.
Yeah.
The school didn't make a statement. Like nothing.
Nope. Nothing. I was told by their spokesperson that they would look into it for me, and I never heard back. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to show up at one of those school board meetings.
Well, the parents just don't care either. So that's another issue.
It is another issue.
Get your kids out of South Bend schools. Get your kids out of most public schools, for that matter. Unless you're able to exact change in these schools, in these public schools, pull your kids. Do not have your kids in this public school system if they are allowing things like this to happen.
And not only allowing it to happen, but
promote them.
It's like in this case, they were kind of egging it on with their cameras and stuff.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm putting this on Facebook, TikTok, whatever.
That kind of makes it worse. We're on the next story. So we had a vandal that attacked a pro-life facility that ran through the abortion clinic property as he was getting away. Yeah. I saw the video you had on that. We'll show it. We'll show part of it again right here.
Yeah. So Ben, you said he. I think it was maybe a she.
Okay.
I'm not positive, but I can tell you that this is the Michiana, or the Right to Life Michiana property that is right next door to the abortion clinic. That's Whole Women's Health. And so what was vandalized was this gazebo that the Right to Life folks use to stay warm during their sidewalk prayer, right? So the vast majority of, like, not the vast, all of these people with Right to Life Michiana, they will sit there and pray. There's a woman who just prays to herself on the sidewalk with a rosary, right? And there are some people who will reach out and be like, hey, listen, would you like to see this literature, right? You don't have to do this. Nobody's yelling. Nobody's screaming. Nobody's being extremely intrusive, right? They are standing on their property, which is right next door to this place, and handing out literature. That is all they're doing. The people, the volunteers who are escorting these women who are going in to abort their babies, right? Abort their pregnancies. They're members of the Satanic Temple of Indiana. Okay, all these people are
Right.
The Satanic Temple of Indiana, or the Northern Indiana Atheists, or their self-proclaimed Antifa. Okay, or multiples of each of those. Okay.
So basically, they're domestic terrorists.
Yeah, they wear shirts. They literally wear T-shirts calling themselves death squirts. It's insane. So these people will scream, holler, violently threaten, nearly commit violence. One of them almost ran over a sitting congresswoman, Jackie Walorski. Go to Real News Michiana and look that up, about this guy, this Antifa member, outside of that abortion clinic, nearly hitting Jackie Walorski, Congresswoman Jackie Walorski, with his car on purpose, right? There's video of that. I have it. But they go to this gazebo, they tear it up, just so these people can't stay warm now when they're out there just praying, right? They're not doing anything wrong. They're just praying.
You know, this is kind of what the extreme left lowered themselves to do now. I mean, it's kind of what they do.
Yeah.
And the facts are on their side. On the extreme left, they can no longer call a baby a fetus anymore. Before, it was kind of a blurry area. Like 20, 30 years ago, we didn't know if it was really a human life, at what point. And this, now we know. Science cleared this up.
The science is clear.
The science is clear. So when you get into this whole back and forth, they can't really debate because they just sound silly doing it. So
You're right. They can't debate.
They resort themselves to crime and to try to shut you up and to shut you down because they got nothing else. They're desperate.
Then they can't debate, so they intimidate. Like, they literally scream and hoot and honk. They blow cigarette smoke into these people's faces. Like, they do whatever. They hit them with umbrellas. These are you're exactly right. These are domestic terrorists, and we just sit there and allow them to do what they're doing. It is
all they want to do is shut you up. That's it.
Yep.
Because they can't argue the merits of the case, the merits of the whole conversation. They can't argue it. It's not on their side. So they're going to try to outnumber you. They're going to try to come at you at 3 a.m. when no one's around. They're going to do everything they can to take a cheap shot at you because they can't win.
I tell you what, though, morality is on our side, and we will be the victors.
Yes, sir. And on that note, thank you for tuning in. And as always, stay informed, folks.